Today, we're going to continue our talk about the Louisiana Purchase, and this is all the notes that we had last time that I have up there right now. We're going to continue our talk about the Louisiana Purchase and the effect that it had on our country. If you remember last time, we talked about how it doubled the size. If you look over here at the map, this was the United States before, and now this is now added to it. So it almost doubled the size of the United States. And we bought all that land and paid $15 million, which was a great deal at the time. And it worked out to about 3 cents per acre is all we paid for all of that land. So very good deal by President Jefferson, even though honestly it wasn't something that was legal at the time because Congress hadn't approved it, but they let it go because he got so much. So we had to explore the territory, and I bet you've heard a little bit of this story before. Jefferson asked two men to go along with, or not go along with him, he didn't go, but two men to go out and explore it. And if you think about it, they are exploring, go back to the slide, they are exploring all of this. We've not been here before. And he wanted them to go all the way through here and to the Pacific Ocean. So they were going to explore a lot of land. And the two guys that did it, you may have heard the names Lewis and Clark. And that's who went out and explored this territory in May of 1804. Meriwether Lewis, I bet he got made fun of for his first name, and William Clark set out to see what was out there. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. They went to see what was going on and what was out there. So they started, and they were traveling on foot, obviously, and they met up with a lot of Indian tribes. And they would give peace offerings when they would first meet the tribes, so that way they wouldn't like get killed or anything. And they decided, hey, we could do even better. When they got to present day North Dakota, they met this woman who was Indian and was married to a white dude because he kind of bought her, and yeah. But her name was Sacagawea, is how it's commonly pronounced. They actually pronounce it Sacagawea, and she was a translator. She could speak both, white man's English and most Indian dialects. So she was very useful, very beneficial. And her husband came along with them. And it wasn't just Lewis and Clark. There were several people that went with them. They were just like the leaders of it. And even one of I don't know which one. I want to say Clark had a slave that went with them, and they were all treated equally. They all got equal say. They kind of ran as a democracy. They would vote on what to do next and that kind of thing. And of course, Lewis and Clark had final say in things, but they kept it pretty good, pretty peaceful. But Sacagawea was pregnant at the time, and with her help, they were able to cross. Now, maybe she wasn't pregnant. Maybe she just had a baby. But there's a baby involved there. But with her help, they were able to cross the Rocky Mountains and the Continental Divide, which divides the continent into two parts. The water flows towards the Atlantic Ocean, or excuse me, towards the Mississippi River if it's on the eastern side of the Continental Divide, and it goes to the Pacific Ocean if it's on the western side of the Continental Divide. They reached the Pacific Ocean in November of 1805, and they went back to St. Louis after that, after they explored and stuff a little bit, but they did with a whole lot of information. Excuse me, I don't know if that's happened before, but they had a whole lot of information about the Western United States. And just a couple of cool things about this trip. When they were near the Pacific Ocean, they ran into Sacagawea's best friend as a child, like a childhood friend. It'd be like just amazing that they saw her. And shortly after that, she ran into her brother, who is now the chief of an Indian tribe. And she's like, dude, you're a chief now. And he's like, yeah, you're married to some white dude now. Just kind of weird that they ran into each other and recognized each other, especially her and her young childhood friend. And it's kind of a cool story about what they experienced on their trip. But when they came back, they had all this information about the Atlantic, or about the Pacific Ocean, about the Rocky Mountains, about the Western United States, stuff that we just bought. They now knew a little bit about, and they mapped it out and everything, and they gave it to Thomas Jefferson, and they were heroes. They were gone for a couple of years, and honestly, they hadn't been heard from for a while, so most people thought they were dead, and then they show back up in St. Louis. So Life was good for them. Relations were not going so well, though, with the Indians, especially in the Midwest, because now this is where we're taking over their land. In current day Indiana, there was a Shawnee Indian leader, and his name was Tecumseh. And he got a lot of Indians to come together and basically do a rebellion. And even some British people stepped in. We're like, they're getting tired of these Americans taking all this land. That's exactly what Britain had done, before. But they got together and they went out and they went after the um, settlers for doing this. And it was successful for a little while, but eventually they weren't able to slow it down. But Tecumseh was so upset with everything. Legend goes, and really you can't find a whole lot about this, and I remember from my 8th grade history class, the legend goes that Tecumseh put a curse on America, and he said, every time you have a president that is elected in a year ending in zero, they will die while they're president. Okay, that was Tecumseh's curse. That was his prediction according to legend. Well, the next president that was elected after he supposedly made this curse was William Henry Harrison in 1840, and he died of pneumonia. Abraham Lincoln was elected in 1860. We know he was shot and killed. James Garfield was elected in 1880. He was shot and killed. William McKinley was elected in 1900. He was shot and killed. William G. Harding was elected in 1920. He had a heart attack, died while he was president. Franklin Roosevelt, 1940, died while he was president, had a brain hemorrhage. Of course, he had 4 terms, so he had a little extra time. John F. Kennedy, elected in 1960, was shot and killed. Ronald Reagan, elected in 1980, was shot, but did not die. And the curse was broken with Ronald Reagan. But 7 presidents in a row that were elected in a year ending in zero died, and supposedly that was because of Tecumseh's curse. So, for my remote learners, I want you to write a sentence here. After it says they were very successful in slowing down the white settlers, I want you to type in the sentence, yes, I believe in Tecumseh's curse, or no, I do not believe in Tecumseh's curse. Okay, so one or the other, you're going to have to type that in there, and I will check that, and that'll be part of your grade for doing the notes. So that is all the notes for this lesson. Hope you enjoyed it. Lewis and Clark, they're successful. Sacagawea helped. They Sacagawea had ended up having 2 kids, and pretty sure she died at a young age. And one of them, I believe it was Clark, actually adopted her 2 kids and paid her their way through school. So pretty cool story if you think about everything that happened with Lewis and Clark. So, all right, that is all we're doing.